Thanks, Brad. Again, my name is Shunsuke Hosaka. I'm a management consultant working for a Japanese consulting firm called Dream Incubator. I'm always questioning myself whether the service we provide to clients, is it really a global standard? Or is it the best practice when it's seen globally? And I started studying about it, and I came across a member of TC 260 and learned about it and got the personal or individual ISO 314 certification for it. And I became the first Japanese ISO consultant.
Wonderful. How are you using this standard as a consultant?
What we do is the first checking the client's HR practices or what kind of HR system they have, and see whether they stand compared to the ISO 314 global level. That's what we do.
Where do you find the most interest to the standard?
It mainly comes from big companies.
Okay.
Those are publicly listed companies. And it's because as the situation in US or in EU, the investors are having more interest in human capital or intangible assets. So big Japanese companies are starting to think about human capital.
What's happening from a regulation point of view in Japan?
And the corporate governance code was amended last month, and it was the first time that human capital, the word human capital, became mentioned in the corporate governance code. And the code requires now companies, listed companies, to disclose human capital information. So the new corporate governance code in Japan is really aligned to the concept of ISO 314. And I think it is now in Japan that the listed public companies in Japan is almost their obligation to disclose human capital information now. I would say companies have started to recognize ISO 314.
Okay.
Yes, I would say about 30% of listed companies now know about ISO 314 or
Wow.
the global movement of human capital disclosure.
Now, what's unique about the Japanese market in terms of human capital?
I think the way Japanese companies managed their business or managed their workforce, it's really aligned with the concept of ISO 314.
Nice.
Many companies or many people say people are our most valuable asset. Japan is no exception. So it is kind of based on a long-term value creation. And that's why I think Japanese companies are very interested in ISO 314, because it's also trying to see the value of an organization in a mid to long term.
These practices of showing the long-term thinking and the importance of human capital are certainly part of the modern Japanese miracle, for sure.
Yes, there are certain resistance, especially when it comes to ISO standards.
Okay.
They have their past experience.
Right.
They think ISO standards are something made by Western society.
Yep.
So they have those kind of resistance, and when it comes to disclosure, they are forced to disclose very short-term, quarterly information. So when I start to address the merit of using ISO 3414, which I mentioned earlier, that aligns with the Japanese companies' management system or working culture, they start listening and they start to become more interested in it. And they, some companies will start using it.
But do you have any success stories that you can share with us that demonstrate the value add? You know,
we did a 2-month project with them, and as a result of that consulting project, they were able to find 3 things. And first one is they were able to see where they stand compared to the global HR practices. They were able to set internal KPIs, and so that they could see improvements by using them. They recognize the importance of HR strategy that aligns with their business strategy.
How would you envision success 2 years from now? How would you articulate that?
I'd like to have about 5 Japanese companies organizationally certified in Japan. Dream Incubator is a business producing company, right. And what I'm doing now is producing a new business based on human capital. So I would like to start a new business by this new movement and with this new global network, together with many Japanese companies.
Inspire people. And I think there's a lot of similarities to what we're doing, not to over exaggerate, to something like the Olympics, which is, you know, let's face it, it's standardized, right? You know, the 100 meters is 100 meters. It's not 110 meters for Usain Bolt because he's too fast, you know, and you know, 90 meters for other people for whatever reason. And I think in human resources, we've had a history of, you know, taking this idea of confidentiality and creating a box and putting a lot of things in there in terms of, you know, how we do business, how we develop as professionals, including what we're doing exactly right now, which is sharing professional information to advance the profession, to advance our personal development. But specific to the people who might be watching in Japan, are there any resources that you would like them to follow or notice?
Yes, we as Dream Incubator, we provide a website for human capital or human capital disclosure. So it would be good to access our homepage, webpage, and we will start creating an English version as well. So
nice.
And the movement in Japan to our global friends through that webpage.
Well, Shunsuke-san, arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank
you so much. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom. And we wish you the best of luck with your consulting. And thank you again for, you know, raising the tide for this project globally.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad, for your time.